now what I'd like to do is just open it up to the floor. If someone has a question that they would like to ask, Alan has a microphone, and perhaps if you would raise your hand. I don't believe it. Somebody's got a question. Oh, is there? Okay, please stand up and give your question.
Oh. Turn it on.
David, on the real-time bus, so when you showed the architecture, you showed some of the vendors whose hardware you use for your prototyping and testing, et cetera. I could understand all the other pieces except on the real-time bus. I have a two-part question. Is it DDS and OPC, both, that form the real-time bus? And secondly, also on the real-time bus, you had a vendor's logo. So if we're talking about open standards, what aspect do you need somebody? Is there an orchestrator for the bus? Because like you said, there's no, DCS isn't a central orchestrator for this. So I was just a little confused on that, on the real-time bus.
So the real-time bus would be based on standard-based communications. And in our proof of concept, we tried two types, OPC-UA and DDS. And because we had used RTI's library for DDS, we put their logo on the bus. We tried both. We've tried them both at the same time. Obviously, they don't talk to each other, but that was our goal, is to use standard-based communications protocols, and those were the two we've tried. They're not the only two out there. There's two we tried.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
I was just curious if you guys could go into a little more about the reasons for, OPA and Namur and NOAA and MTP coming together in the first place. Why, wouldn't OPA just kind of go it alone? So why would they come together, and what's the reason for that?
Well, Jim, I think in essence, it's about critical mass of end user demand. So for me at least, it's about finding that common ground of demand for change and marshaling our forces to do so. And we approach this, and we've been saying this all along. It's it's done in a spirit of compromise. We have ideas, throw ideas out there and try. If we have to modify to be pragmatic to get to the finish line, that's the spirit that we're bringing to the venture.
Yeah, I can also add to Don that the real main driver for this is the fact that you are trying to address obsolescence issue related to hardware, I/O modules, the controller, these pieces of hardware. So all the effort is one of the objectives of all this effort is trying to address the issue within that layer. Not only in this layer, but together with it, the application layer, and then all the system component. So to answer the question, what is the main driver? And I think we all, as end user, share a common driver and motivation, which is to address issues related to I/O obsolescence, hardware controller obsolescence. These are the main issues that we're trying to address, along with application and software and operating system issues.
So basically there is not much to be added. So for me also it's about the critical mass. In parts we are solving each other's problems, vice versa. And in the end it will also depend now in 4 or 5 years from now how many URSs vendors will be faced with requirements for a certain standard, and the more the better, so to reflect that there's no way around it. And so if now speaking for Namur, if Open Process Automation Forum was a species completely on its own, decoupled then from the installed base, so that would have affected more greenfield, but so in the end it affects everything, also HMI upgrades, etc., because then you would use this 5, 6, 7, or 8-year opportunity, which is much more often, to establish, for example, a full real-time service bus connectivity. And so then it's also clear for DCS if all companies want that at the end, so that this is required in the products.
Okay, there's a question over here from Eric Byers.
Thanks. So I'm going to preface this by saying I think this is a really cool idea, and I really like this. So this question might seem a little negative, but Marty Edwards made me ask it. I have some tire tracks up my back from MAP and from the field bus wars, et cetera. What's different this time? How is this going to be different from the previous open efforts, and how do we see this changing? Or how do we see this succeeding?
All right, Eric, you can't pass the buck, man. Okay, so we definitely want to learn from the past. Okay, the MAP. So my take on the MAP initiative is perhaps GM got too ahead of everybody else and didn't move at the pace that the industry was capable of moving at. So that's a take on MAP, and we're trying to learn from those lessons of the past. And my team has heard me say many, many times, I think we have an opportunity for Field Bus 2.0 here to rehost the technologies that actually have been proven to work technically, but didn't make it commercially, by instead of putting these compute capabilities out on all the field instruments, concentrate them in that DCN thing that we're going to make gazillions of. Maybe it's going to work commercially this time. The field bus didn't fail. It's the period of its gestation, the wars among the suppliers to get it there. Again, we're trying to learn from those lessons of the past, but there are many valleys of death to cross on this journey. We're trying to bring full wisdom to bear to get us to the finish line successfully this time. And we need the security guys to chime in. So come on, Marty. Come on, Eric. We need you guys too.
You're welcome to join, Eric. Michael, you have some comment on that?
And for me, it's also a matter of focus. So because I was not around at the time of the field bus introduction, but I'm not sure if this was really a topic also for the higher management levels at that time. So now with digitization being a major ground for this to happen, and also the intensiveness of end-user cooperation with all the vendors on the table, which is also, I think, unique and was not at the time of the field buses present.
I'd make one other comment very quickly, and just personally, and that is the commercial interests and pressures are still here. We're in a much different world from a software standpoint than we were in the 1980s. And we've seen the power that open source cooperation can have. Not that this all has to be open source, but we've seen the kind of capability that can be deployed very quickly in the software world. So we're in a different world in that space too, which potentially this effort can leverage. There's another question from the floor. Please stand up.
Hi, I'm Yosef Elbatimi from Horizon Controls Group. If I'm an OEM process equipment vendor and I choose to implement a DCN or series of DCNs in my kind of turnkey application, is there an expectation that there should be no IP, encryption or lockdown of the code so that somebody else can't export it and basically steal it? Or, do I have to do open source as well as that provider?
No, this is not an open source initiative, okay? So intellectual property is protected in this business model. It's about open interfaces. So IP of components is protectable and licensable by the suppliers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, another question over here.
Stan DeVries with Schneider Electric. The initiatives summarized here seem to be largely complementary. So my question is, assuming that my observation is correct, it sounds like the alignment, harmonization, whatever you choose to call it, could proceed quite quickly. Is that true?
Michael, why don't you have a go at that?
Yeah, I would absolutely assume so. Yeah, so because there is not really anything I would see needs to be sorted out. So we need to check, so in this complementary character, that there are no gaps in between, align on the timelines, but then I would absolutely agree with you because there are no compromises in that sense to be made.
Okay, other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, let us then thank these gentlemen for their work and for this excellent presentation.